the land of wolves. Death unto the weak, no mercy IX. LQAI translation, one stranger. If that is the case, how about something that compiles Valetia's ethnographic history? Stranger. Close, not bad. However, since it is not bad merely on the point of comparing it to others, please regard it as the kind of praise that by no means deserves to be lauded. As he was about to knock on the door to the office, such voices could be heard through it. He recognized both voices, but drawn by the latter one that was always noisy, he stopped in his tracks, thinking it rare that the former voice had also become loud. If some troublesome discussion was unfolding, it might be wiser to make time, and after it ended, to choose the right moment too. Stranger. Ah, Your Excellency, Keisha's just arrived in front of the room. Since we're at it, let's have Keisha listen as well. I'm sure Keisha will, just like me, cover his face and lament Your Excellency's idea. Stranger. That one's irreverence is little different from yours, but he shan't go so far as to be that blatant. In the first place, the very assumption that he and you will share the same opinion is premature. Keisha, enter. Keisha. Pardon me. Irritatingly, having had his presence through the door noticed and deprived of any escape, the man, Keisha Gold, suppressed a sigh and, obeying the summons, opened the office door. Within the Abelux residence, the second finest room was the young head's office. The most finely appointed room was unoccupied, regularly made to look as though someone spent time there, and those ignorant of the circumstances mistook that room for the head's own. It was a way of thinking befitting the Valetian imperial family, constantly exposed to the danger of assassination and intrigue, and obliged to be vigilant. At any rate, Keisha. Cecilis, it does not do to trouble His Excellency overmuch. His Excellency is a busy man, unlike you, who idle the livelong day. Cecilis. Wait, you're jumping to conclusions. True, it is a fact that I usually stay His Excellency's hand from work, but this time is different. Yai, Keisha's jumping the gun. Keisha. Your Excellency. Stranger. On this occasion alone, this fellow's wording is not mistaken. Glancing over, the black-haired boy facing the office desk answered solemnly, and at that, "See, I told you so." The blue-haired boy in kimono waved both hands, dancing and chanting. For the time being, Keisha smacked the dancing boy on the head with the documents he had been holding, made him say ow, and then, Keisha, "Then what is it? I believe I heaped a mountain of documents upon His Excellency, cases I wished processed." Stranger. Fool. I do not push back my official duties to amuse myself with trifles. Cecilis. Trifles, you say? Keisha's whacking me, His Excellency's being offhand with me, my treatment's what's trifling here. Besides those trifles, this time the topic was one Your Excellency brought up. Keisha. That is rare. While the boy stomped his feet bada and aired his grievance, raising a brow at Cecilis's remark, Keisha began checking the large sheaf of documents thrust out upon the desk. Setting aside the outlandishness of his conduct, Cecilis did not lie. If he was not suited to lying, it was because he felt no need to. Such was his nature. On the other hand, the other party, Vincent Abelux, if one looked at the documents, one could tell there was no lie in his saying that he had finished his work. In short, putting the two opinions together, it seemed he had happened upon a scene worthy of remark. Vincent, who seldom did so, had broached casual conversation with Cecilis. Keisha. So long as it does not impede your official duties, that is well enough, but what sort of discussion were you having? Cecilis. Well now, this is quite the masterpiece, you see. As usual, but more than usual with his cheeks grinning, Cecilis's shoulders shook. That said, should he hear it from Cecilis's mouth, there was a high chance the answer would come back twisted and imprecise, so Keisha awaited Vincent's reply. Perhaps because of Cecilis's preamble, Vincent, though a little slower to part his lips, spoke. Vincent, we were selecting the book that ought to be presented to the Benedict family's younger sister. Keisha, I see. At those words of his master, which furrowed his brow in a way hard to notice to the onlooker, Keisha nodded quietly. Then, glancing at Cecilis, who was flaring his little nostrils beside Vincent, he inwardly concurred with the boy taking that ridiculous attitude. Surely, this was a situation that ought to be called quite a masterpiece. At the age of 16, Vincent Abelux is a member of the Valetian imperial family. The Emperor of Wallachia takes many wives from various lands and sires many children. As a result, Vincent had many brothers and sisters both above and below him. However, even among blood siblings, there is the problem of whether personalities match, and Vincent, in general, is the type who chooses people. Consequently, there is no one among his other brothers and sisters with whom he is friendlier than necessary. Keisha, at most, would that not be Lord Barthroy, who has a pleasant manner with people? Vincent, elder brother, is without malice and not the sort to turn his thoughts to scheming. At the very least, at present I feel no need to make him an enemy. We are straying from the topic. Keisha, yes, it was a present for the younger princess, for Her Highness Prisca Benedict, was it not? Rolling the words on his tongue, Keisha deeply felt anew that this was an unexpected worry. By his position, it is not rare for Vincent to present something to someone out of social obligation. But in those cases, the meaning lies strongly in the negotiations with the other party. And the fact of having given the gift is more important than the gift itself. For that reason, he does not end up fretting over the contents of the gift. But Keisha, that you are troubled over the contents is proof that you are thinking to present something that will truly be to the recipient's benefit. Your excellency is growing day by day. Vincent, there remains no sign of respect sprouting within you. If all you can offer are counsels akin to Cecilis's, then, lacking his skill, know that you will be the one unable to escape the reproach of incompetence. Keisha, how cutting! Keisha shrugged at Vincent's harsh phrasing. However, if one thinks this is also a kind of bashfulness, then charm outweighs fear. It was only natural that Cecilis was enjoying himself. Keisha, even so, it is rare for you to be so undecided. Lady Prisca is at an age still young. Would not glittering jewelry or a beautiful dress do? Vincent, for other sisters I would make do with such things, but for that one it would be a waste. Keisha, a waste, you say, your true intent. At Vincent's voice, which had lowered ever so slightly, Keisha asked what lay in his breast. The expression, a waste to give, can be taken to have two meanings. One is that one finds no value in presenting jewelry to the other party. But given the way Vincent was speaking now, Vincent, that girl is a rare talent. Rather than delighting in jewels and dresses and the like, there must be something more fitting. Keisha, for your excellency to say so much? To the surprised words that slipped out, Vincent quietly nodded. It was an evaluation worthy of surprise. Vincent has an eye for people, in the sense of seeing through to ability. Self-praise mixes in, but it is the truth. Keisha and Cecilis, and the many talented personnel the Abelux domain has taken on, can be called people who passed Vincent's scrutiny. For Vincent to say this much, Keisha. However, even if she is excellent, if she is your younger sister, then the fate of the Wallachian imperial family that awaits is far too dark, and one cannot blame the stance of not fraternizing with other members of the imperial family. Thus, Keisha was about to say something in the vein of admonition, but, Cecilis, if what is to be lost in the end has no value, then it had no value in being born. All living things, without exception, die eventually. By that logic, Keisha, your excellency and I would have no value, would we? Keisha. Cecilis? At Cecilis's phrasing, which precisely cut open the words he had left unspoken, Keisha knit his brows. Ignoring that, the childlike manslasher stamped the floor hard in his zari and said, Cecilis, isn't it fine? Let his excellency do as he pleases. He wishes to give a gift. Splendid. If possible, to give something beneficial. Also splendid. As retainers taken into his excellency's service, let us devote ourselves to realizing his excellency's wishes as much as we can. Keisha, from anyone else I might accept it, but when it's you saying it, it becomes hard to nod along. Cecilis, it's uncool to swap in and out what's right and wrong depending on who the speaker is, you know. Tilting his head, Cecilis, with each and every remark, grasped the essence of the matter. Thanks to that, the correctness of Vincent's eye in having discovered him was once more proven. Keisha, and so, I see, your excellency chose a book. Recalling the conversation between Vincent and Cecilis he had heard through the door at the outset, Keisha at last caught up to the core part of the pair's topic. Rather than gifting jewels or dresses, if one has struggled to find something to match Princess Prisca's talent and to cultivate it further, it is understandable to arrive at a book. When Keisha, too, was first taken into Vincent's service, what most stirred his heart was the number of volumes in the Abelux family's collection. It is certain that many books satisfy curiosity and polish the intellect. To Keisha's understanding, Vincent nodded with a "indeed," and said, "Vincent, no talent of whatever sort can show its true worth if it is not honed. To sharpen a sword, one needs a whetstone. To polish intellect, books are essential." Keisha, hence books. I am in agreement on that point as well, but what is the problem? Vincent, that one there loudly declares without compunction that what I chose does not suit. Cecilus, yes, it is wholly insufficient. Hands on his hips and leaning back, Cecilus looked around at Keisha's and Vincent's faces. Watching those eyes of his, which were shining terribly brightly, Keisha could only tilt his head at Cecilus's argument. He thought Vincent's aim was not mistaken, but Keisha, why do you say that will not do? Cecilus, in the first place, the thinking of narrowing it down to a single item is far too small. It's fine to present a book on the grounds that it will surely be beneficial, but what is the reason to hesitate over presenting jewels or a dress? Yes, aren't you saying it based on the mood when there's no particular reason? Vincent, but in what way would those be of use to her? Cecilus, to be surrounded by fine things cultivates an eye for fine things. Please look, Your Excellency, at this sword I pestered you to obtain for me. Saying so, Cecilus thrust out the sword he wore at his hip. Just as he himself said, it was a famed blade, a masterpiece Vincent had bestowed upon him. Cecilus drew the sword, showing the bared blade, and said, Cecilus, you may think that a master does not choose his weapon, but that is wrong. It is precisely the master who cuts people with skill who should be given a weapon that can cut without skill. The ones we should be dealing with are not a single person, but many. For that, we must cultivate an eye for the weapons we handle. Vincent, it galls me, but it is infuriating to find myself nodding along to talk like this. Keisha, indeed. Ah, Cecilus, please do not carelessly draw a blade in His Excellency's office. Next time it will not be settled with only a warning. Finding no points at which to rebut Cecilus's argument, Keisha for the time being cautioned him about his behavior, and while Cecilus hastily put the sword away, Keisha turned to Vincent and nodded. Keisha, I imagine it sticks in your craw to follow Cecilus's advice, but I have concluded there is reason in it. Let us prepare those as well as for the book. What will you present? Vincent, that too is a matter for deliberation. This impudent one kicked aside my opinion as trifling. You will, no doubt, betray that expectation. Keisha, I cannot help but tilt my head at how this course lays a great burden upon me. In short, because Cecilus had said whatever he pleased and denied his thinking, the sulking Vincent was poised to dump it all on Keisha. If this were personnel appointments or flood control, and the like, affairs of state, that would still be one thing, but trying to curry favor with a younger princess, whom he had never actually met, made Keisha's extremes of predicament extreme indeed. Even so, when his master sought his opinion, Keisha would not be fit for his post if he could say nothing. Turning over the matter in his mind, drawing together his black brows, Keisha suddenly voiced a thought. It was, Keisha, then, rather than a book that sets down knowledge, I am of the opinion that you might present a book of stories. Vincent, what? Cecilus, oh, stories. To Keisha's proposal, the listeners' reactions were polar opposites. Vincent was dubious, and Cecilus, eyes shining, leaned in. Keisha was not among those who read in great quantity, but he had also enjoyed stories. On the other hand, Vincent should have had no familiarity with such made-up things, with fiction. Keisha, precisely because of that, it may also strike her as fresh. As I surmise it, if what your excellency favors is the case, then is not Lady Priscilla also a person who, like your excellency, polishes her intellect? If so, I think Lady Priscilla will in time reach, on her own, the books your excellency has read. Vincent, if it is a path that will come in due time, I think there is meaning in a forerunner showing a more efficient road. And yet, over and above that, you recommend something lowbrow like stories. Why, Cecilus? Wait, deciding that stories are lowbrow even for your excellency is MMMPH. Keisha, you have already spoken enough. Let us make this the scene where I set forth my thinking. Covering Cecilus's mouth as he sprang out, Keisha faced Vincent's gaze head-on. At the stare that peered in to probe his intent, Keisha began, "Now then," to don his theoretical armament in his head. That said, even if it was a sudden idea, it was not a random proposal. Just because its origin was such, there is always a foundation to the thought. There was, for Keisha Gold to arrive at that idea, such a foundation. Keisha, indeed, Your Excellency called it lowbrow, but how much experience have you had in savoring stories? To speak categorically without that, I fear, would rightly be judged as having told about a thing with no basis. Vincent, a slick tongue. Then, even if I withdraw the judgment that it is lowbrow, what meaning is there in making me and Priska read stories? What sort of knowledge would be gained? Keisha, in all likelihood, reading stories would serve to polish the spirit. Vincent, what? Lowering his voice, Vincent spoke, and Keisha, considering the race and dare of stories, expounded. Vincent had said, to sharpen a sword, one needs a whetstone, and to hone intellect, one needs books. If so, then are stories not there to polish the heart? Keisha, just as one learns from history, people can learn from stories. There is a faculty by which, knowing another's feelings to be another's, one can think of them as one's own. When a flood occurs in the neighboring town, is the lesson to be gained only the damage caused by the flood? Is there not also something to learn in the fact that someone was lost? Vincent, if one reads stories deeply, such knowledge can be gained. Keisha, as it is, Your Excellency is one who can live only as a member of the Valetian imperial family. All the more so, then, I humbly think that as a guide to knowing the thoughts of others, stories may at times prove useful. As he spoke, he was surprised to find that it had become a far more reasonable argument than he had expected, and was impressed with himself for, at this late hour, arriving at his own intent. In fact, perhaps because Vincent too had something to think about, he fell silent and seemed to be considering the matter seriously. It was not that he had any particular fixation on making her read stories, but Cecilis. Nice, Keisha. Surely this foreshadowing will pay off. Slipping cleverly free from the hand that had covered his mouth, Cecilis said so with an easy smile. At the word foreshadowing, which seemed to be the trend in him of late, Keisha also smiled wryly. And then, as Keisha was shrugging at Cecilis's rare praise, Vincent, it is a way of thinking I did not have, but it sits ill to present one without reading it myself. Cecilis, great. In that case, I like the Rose Knight of Tyros. Keisha, I am of the opinion that beginning with something well-known, like Iris and the King of Thorns, would be good. To Vincent's forward-looking statement about reading, Cecilis and Keisha each raised a book title. Both were famous works, but Vincent's reaction was meager. It seemed truly to be a weak field for him. It felt bad, as though they were using the younger princess as a stepping stone, but Keisha thought it not a bad thing for Vincent, at times, to show age-appropriate reactions and take an interest in other things like this. Incidentally, this inspiration of Keisha's at that time pierced the brother and sister, Vincent and Priska, beyond expectations, and thereafter the pair would enjoy all manner of stories and, at times, eagerly await new releases from favored authors, becoming a pair of literary siblings. But that is foreshadowing for another far-off story. End.